Hey folks, welcome back to my channel Whiskey Wismar. My name is Christopher and today here on my table I have a Springbank. Springbank, always a welcome guest and one of my favorites, a bottle that is always present in my cupboard. And here we have the 12-year-old Cask Strength edition, a batch release that up until the COVID pandemic was released several times a year, I believe twice or even 3 times sometimes. And here, this is the batch from the 8th of January 2020, so before the pandemic broke out. Originally released price-wise here in Germany around 80, no, that's a little high, so 70 to 75 euros. But since the pandemic and since Springbank had to close down for a little bit as well, or was producing very little during a couple of months, this Cask Strength release has increased tremendously in price. So 110, 120, 130 euros is what I saw already. And here I was, for this bottle, I was quite lucky as I found it in the wilds at MSRP. So couldn't resist, got a bottle, and the local dealer got some business. So that's always good. Support your local dealers. Yeah, what do we have here? As I said, the batch from 2000 and early 2020. Composition, it is, I believe, 65% sherry, 35% ex-bourbon. But they are changing, or they changed this composition up quite a bit. Sometimes it's 75 sherry to 25 bourbon, or vice versa. Sometimes it's port in the mix or rum, overall always a treat, always a surprise sometimes, but always good. They never disappoint, these Cask Strength editions. Those in the know, those who like Springbank and heard about Springbank before, then you probably are aware that they sort of have 3 different brands that they cater to. One is, of course, Hazelburn, the unpeated triple distilled version that has a rather smooth, hate that word, but a more direct, more accessible spirit that, however, still has absolute belters of single casks available from time to time, and is always a treat. But they sort of they lose a little bit of attention next to Springbank's standard range that is, of course, named Springbank, and sometimes they are the third iteration of Springbank, Long Row, more heavily peated and a little dirtier, a little deeper, a little darker at times when it comes to the peat dimension. But here, so their bread and butter, their Springbank line, starting with the 10-year-old, an absolute benchmark of a whiskey, always worth buying and never disappoints. It's great stuff. I always have a bottle. And then next step up is this 12-year-old. There's a 15-year-old that is more sherried, and I definitely plan on reviewing this here for you on my table. There's an 18-year-old and 21, as well as a 25-year-old, but those get really, really pricey. I believe the 25-year-old is somewhere around 500 euros, probably only increasing in price. So that is out of my reach. But this one used to be really accessible and quite affordable up until the pandemic. So let's see. On the nose, bit boozy, so you can smell the spirit, but it's not overpowering at 55.3% ABV. Yeah, it's my second sip of this today, and the peat, the smokiness of this Springbank, of this bottle has receded a little bit now. It's not really in your face peaty like the Long Row or other heavily peated whiskey. So it is there, and it adds to the complexity and to the experience, but it's not in your face. And right now it's almost undistinguishable from the rest of the whiskey. It's undetectable for me right now. Maybe it comes back on the palate or when I add water. But for now, all I can smell is the tropical fruit from the bourbon cask. So melon, peaches, apricots. Overall very vivid, very fresh on the nose. And the sherry cask, they add raisins, but not really deep and damp raisins from old sherry cask, but instead hard to describe. Yeah, there's raisins, there are figs, but not too overpowering, not too sweet, still fresh and vibrant. And the bourbon and the sherry, they stand next to each other without overpowering the other. Something that is lost now, a little bit at least, is the peat. But I'm sure it'll be back on the palate. Regardless though, even without the peat now on the second nosing, this is absolutely a gorgeous nose. Very old school. If you ever had old malts, not long matured, so not 40-year-olds or whatever, but old whiskey, so 12-year-olds from the, I don't know, early 80s or 70s or so. This is what it smells like. So, on the palate then. It's oscillating between sweet, caramel, honey, and then dryness from the probably refilled European oak. Maybe first fill bud as well. It was a little stronger, more assertive. Actually don't know how many bottles this batch contained. Whiskybase probably has you covered. I put the link down below so you can check if there's a bottle count, but I don't think so. I don't think the 12-year-old Cask Strength usually has the amount of bottles listed. I could be mistaken though, so have a look. Yeah. Great nose. Very accessible palate. Peat is not returned really. It is there as a subdued layer of complexity, but not as nearly as vivid and present as in even the 10-year-old, in my opinion. But it is this whiskey is sometimes a chameleon. It's quite dependent on your day form, what you ate before, what you drank before, or if the bottle or the fill level is receding. So at first, when I opened this, I was a little disappointed. I thought it was a little too fresh, too aggressive, but now it was only open for a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, and it has already improved incredibly. So this is all really amazing whiskey. Quite the benchmark. So the tropical fruit, they really assert themselves still maybe here in Germany we have like a fruity hard candy called Nimm 2, Take 2. It's like orangey, yellowy color, very much citrus forward oranges, but sweet oranges, juicy oranges. This is what you have here without being sour. So very juicy over all the nose still and on the palate. I'll try this with some water because I know that these Springbanks, they can swim. They swim very well. So usually takes a while before Scotch mist appears, so let's see if it's changed on the nose. Yeah, the peat is back. The Springbank funk that you sometimes read or hear about, it is back. Reminds me more of the 10-year-old now. This tropical fruit, these chalky limes is back, but it lost some sweetness. So raisins and dates are hard to detect now, but as I said, it's chameleon. And let's see how it fares on the palate. Yeah. What can you say? Pretty much perfect. Just great, gorgeous whiskey, very oily. It rolls around your mouth. Once again, oscillating between dry, a little bit of dryness, and sweetness, juiciness. I reckon it has 43-45% now, and really just enjoyable stuff. Yeah, there's a touch of eucalyptus and menthol in the back, so leading to the finish, it's medium long. Once again, tiny bit of caramel, eucalyptus, oak tannins, they are present but not overboarding, so all falls into place. Yeah, this is a complete picture, even with water. Just if you give this to a beginner, somebody who has never drank whiskey before or is curious, and you want to introduce them to single malts, then don't take, I don't know, Balwini double cask or double oak or whatever. It doesn't have power. It's not. It's really not a good example of what Scottish single malt is about. This is really what it's about. And you can take the 10-year-old. You can take this one if you dilute it down a little bit, and then you have good introduction to this beautiful drink. Okay. Yeah, what else is there to say about Springbank? Well, quite a bit actually. One of the last remaining family-owned distilleries, and they expanded somewhat in recent years. They bought Cadenheads, they overtook Cadenheads, and are producing and are running the show at Glengyle with a Kilkerran line. And this is only adding to the depth of Springbank. They have access to new casks, to more different distillates just to find their bearings more and more and release great stuff. So really hope that they can open their visitor center again soon and that we can once again visit Scotland and have a look directly how this stuff is made. So what would I mark this? It's easy. It's a benchmark whiskey, 90 out of 100, and everyone should have a bottle or two available. And so I hope you are healthy, you're fine, and have a great week. I'll see you again next time, and then not quite sure what I'll review then, but it's always a surprise even for me. Okay then, have a great weekend. Bye bye.